Welcome back to another episode of 5 Minutes with, I'm your host with the most, Ross Stockdale, Fractional Chief Marketing Officer and owner of Thunderstock Marketing. Today's episode is our first time doing 3 interviews at one time, so you can expect that this 10 minutes will be jam-packed full of value. Allow me to introduce my guest. First guest is Bernice with chasingtherainbows.org. The next guest is Giuseppe Rodriguez with RDCS. And the last guest, but certainly not least, is Michael Kingston calling in from all the way in Australia with CETA AI. So we'll start with Bernice, but I'll ask you all the same question. And what I want to know is, how did you get started doing what you're doing? And more specifically, what's your why? What is the purpose for doing what you're doing?
Yeah, I'm going to get deep really quick just to kind of explain a little bit of our background and how I founded Chasing the Rainbows. And it was based on my husband and I's personal lived experience. We dealt with secondary infertility and then also lost our infant daughter. And, during that journey of grief and trauma and everything, we couldn't find a place for daily support services. And so our why really was living through these traumatic types of losses where, they're happening in 1 in 4. To the point now of offering the support for anybody whenever they need, because, grief and trauma, we don't know when we're going to have a response to it. We don't know when we're going to have a reaction. And so, just armoring them with support services. And that's our why for our Brooke Marie, who lives now in heaven.
Wow. Well, that's a powerful mission statement and purpose. No pressure, Giuseppe, but you're up next.
Well, my journey actually started when I was 8 years old. It's hard to follow up what Bernice said. That it was pretty amazing. But when I was 8 years old, I decided to take apart, our family's Betamax, and my dad wasn't very happy about that. But I put it together and it worked. So I think everything worked out. But as from a young age, I've always was fascinated with electronics and then computers. So I started taking some classes, building computers for family and friends. Typically how an IT guy usually starts out, right? But then I kind of elevated that to cybersecurity, and I started my business, and I started helping businesses with cybersecurity and IT needs. And that's my why kind of correlates a lot with that, because at a young age, I always wanted to help people, right? And I also love technology. So I kind of just joined those two together and, help businesses make the most out of the technology. And one story that actually really reinforces the reason why I do what I do is one of my clients was going through a security audit to see if they're going to land a large contract, and they passed with flying colors. And hearing that and getting the feedback, how happy they were about that, just made my day and reinforces everything I do.
Well, Giuseppe, one can say that you are hardwired for hardware and all things IT from a very young age.
I like that.
Michael, could you please give me your why and how you got started?
Sure, Ross. My why is I like Giuseppe for decades. I've been thinking about how to start a business, but I didn't have an idea. My background is in consulting, and I spent a few decades working in industry, helping out large businesses with their data and analytics. And then my why is I grew up on a dairy farm in Ireland, and I saw my dad and my mom working every day as a small business. So I really wanted to try and give back to small business. So I combined my career of consulting in data and analytics with with a passion for helping small business. And I set up CEDA 4 years ago, trying to bring data and analytics to small businesses and really trying to help marketers out there that are struggling with data to try and get a better understanding of what's working for marketers in their business and what's going to move the dial in growing the business moving forward.
Love that global, international coming of entrepreneurial age story, Michael. Now, this is the last question I'll be able to ask in the short time, but could you tell me what's the number one challenge that you face in your industry or running a business? If you had to boil it down to just one, because I know every day is a different one, but what is one obstacle you have to overcome, the biggest one? And Bernice, we'll start with you.
Yeah, so starting in the nonprofit world about 3 years ago, it really opened my eyes to understanding, making sure that you have enough volunteers and people behind you and behind your mission, and also having the funding to come in behind that, because we, in such a short period of time, grew into all 50 states, and now we're actually having people reach out from across seas and Canada and things like that for our services. So it's just making sure that now being in all 50 states that we're able to sustain our current programs and continue to grow them to meet the needs for as many survivors that come to us. And then additionally, on top of that, is just making sure that we're adding more support services as things evolve and grow in the mental health field for these types of losses.
Giuseppe, what is your biggest obstacle?
Well, my biggest obstacle, honestly, was the tech. I love technology. I love cybersecurity, and I was always involved in the day-to-day, and having to step back, and realize that I have to be an owner, right, and delegate some of these tasks, focus on high energy, high value stuff that drives results, right. That was the most difficult obstacle for me because it was always in me to get back into the technology and help people and help my clients and stuff. So that was probably my biggest obstacle. I had to learn that over several years.
Distance makes the heart grow fonder, and sometimes delegating and elevating makes you feel distant from your work but closer to your business.
Absolutely.
Michael, what would you say your biggest obstacle is or has been?
My biggest obstacle over the last few years has been the market's awareness of the problem and knowing that there's a solution out there to solve that problem. So the business that I'm in is helping marketers move away from a reliance of marketing attribution or online tracking. Most folks don't actually know that attribution these days is pretty flawed and inaccurate. And my job really has been to enlighten them to let them know that there's some modern technologies and practices to manage their marketing effectiveness a bit better.
Sometimes being on the cutting edge of technology makes you put on the hat of an educator, not just a marketer. So that's it for today's episode, everyone. Thank you so much to my guest. For all those listening, please, if you find yourself wanting to learn more or connect with Bernice, Giuseppe, or Michael, look them up on LinkedIn or search for their company name and visit their website. I'm sure that they would all love to hear from you. Until next time, this is Ross Stockdale with Thunder Stock Marketing, bringing you another jam-packed, full of value episode of 5 Minutes With. Thanks for listening.